Hi guys, shooting full of holes here. Um, let's talk about a good air rifle for a beginner, like let's say maybe a 7 to maybe 9-year-old kid, maybe 10-year-old max. What would be a good starter rifle for a kid that age? Um, you know, there's quite a few things to take in consideration. Um, One is caliber. Two is the size of the gun. And three, the weight of the gun. Four, the trigger pull on that gun. If there's too much weight on the poundage and the trigger pull, kids that age with small fingers, it's tough for them to squeeze and do certain things. Another thing that you might want to consider: do you want a single shot or something that's repeatable? Something that as many times as you can squeeze a trigger, that's how many you shoot, like an old school semi-automatic BB gun. So there's a lot to think about. Another thing to think about: accuracy. Do you want something that is accurate, so you can teach your son or your daughter about accuracy? Or do you want something that's just, sends BBs downrange or pellets or whatever? So those are things you're going to have to basically figure out. Now, I personally, for my son, I tried to pick out something that I could modify as he got older. Instead of just, getting him something now and then getting him something later. And because there's something about the gun that you grew up with. I wish I could still have some of the air rifles that I kind of grew up with. Especially, I wish I had my first BSA that I grew up with. That would always just forever be in my vault. Unfortunately, you move and things happen. You sell it to people, whatever. So, but if you can start off your son with or daughter with an air rifle that you can build along the way until it's really cool for them when they get older. I mean, look at us, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. This stuff doesn't get old. If once you really fall in love with air rifles, it's pretty much for life. So now I have two air rifles here that both were intended for my son. And I think only one of them will be left for him, and the other one will be out in the shed for pretty much pest control. So anyway, I'm going to start off with the 1077. Now, the 1077 from Crosman is actually a really, really nice little gun. There's a lot of good raves about it. There's a lot of positive stuff about it. This is a CO2 power plant. It'll only take one CO2 powerlet. Now, what is cool about this thing is, by the way, this came with the scope bundle. The scope that came on here was a 4x32, and that scope is on the QB78 right now. So anyway, right now I've got I think it's a 4x15. That's right. So this scope is just enough for 10, 15, 20 yards, roundabout maximum. The caliber is a 177 caliber, hence 1077. Now, what's really cool about this rifle is, one, it's really light. Doesn't weigh a ton, so it's easy for my kid to hold it and shoot it. The other thing is that it is repeatable. It has a 10-shot magazine. And I think it's more. I think it's a 10-shot. But that's really cool. So you can squeeze the trigger, and just keep on shooting. Now, what are the cons about it? Well, the first thing is it's 177, so that's more maybe of a target shooting plinking gun. Velocity on this, I really don't know. I haven't really looked it up. But we're going to chrony it anyway. So I don't know what the velocities are, if it's fast enough to, let's say, shoot a bird or a rabbit or a squirrel. Um, which a gun like this I probably wouldn't take it on. But one of the things is the trigger pull. The trigger pull is really stiff. It's stiff for me. So okay, imagine how bad it would be for my kid. So my kid most of the time can't squeeze a trigger on this thing, and he's 9 years old. So that's pretty tough for him. That's the biggest drawback that they made with this rifle. Everything else is really cool, right? But the meat and potatoes of the gun is the trigger pull, okay? Especially for a kid, because you know what? That's the most important part of firing anything. You know, a firearm, a pellet gun, is learning how to control the trigger. Now, when the thing is like literally 5 to 6 pounds, you know, or more, trigger control is really tough at that age, you know. So my kid basically, after the first shot, he's like, you know, so he basically starts shaking trying to squeeze that thing. That's no fun, okay? Now obviously, yeah, when the kid turns 11, 12, whatever, then boom, it's no big deal, just plum, 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 plum. But, you know, then they're not in it for accuracy, they're just shooting at that point. So, I want to teach my kid accuracy, because that's what I learned, you know? So, let's go on to the chrony test with this thing. Let me turn this on really quick. Bear with me, it'll take a few seconds. But other than that, you know, pretty cool. It's plastic. It's, you know, definitely not an expensive rifle. I think it's like 120 bucks, you know, somewhere there in that range. So, not too expensive. Just so you know, I'm using JSB Exact, which is a 7.33 grain pellet. So let's take a shot here. 617, 532, 498. Now you can tell the velocity just went from 600 all the way down to, well, 500, okay? That's because the CO2 part uses, you know, quite a bit of CO2 trying to push the pellet down, and it's cooling, as that CO2 is moving around, it's cooling the gun down. And cold temperature affects CO2 negatively, so you shoot this too fast and it'll just start spitting out the pellets. But, you know, let's say you take your time and you're shooting one here and then another one there, you'll get run about the same velocity every time. So, but 600 feet per second, not bad. 177 caliber. Now let's go to the QB78. Now the QB78 is about $100. You can get the standard model or the deluxe model. I see no. I mean, if you want to spend extra $20 and get the deluxe model, go ahead. All it has is a gold trigger and a gold bolt, and the barrel's a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier. Supposedly the wood's supposed to be also a little nicer. I think it has a better cheek piece. Yeah, you know what? For $20, go ahead, get the deluxe. I've got the standard model. And so, my son's gun I have tweaked out a lot. Tuned it and done all sorts of stuff. Now I should have been getting probably about 600 to 650 feet per second out of it with all the mods that I've done. But I chronied it not so long ago, just the other day, and basically it's not chronographing at that velocity. So I think there might be something that I did wrong. Either the breech seal wasn't put in correctly or something. Who knows? So I'll figure that out. But anyway, so it's got a 4x32 scope on here. As you can see, the stock, I chopped it. So my son used to use it here, Now he likes it kind of back here. And he hasn't shot this rifle that much because like I have been messing with it. You can modify these things as you go along. That's what I like about it. Like here, you know, you can cut the stock and then you can add some more stuff, make it longer as he starts getting older. It is a heavy gun. It's not exactly light. It's wood and steel, just the way I like them. This is 22 caliber, so definitely more lead down range. The other thing is that this will take 2 CO2 powerlets, so it'll definitely double the amount of fun for you. The drawback is that it's bolt action, but that depends on if it's a drawback or not, because I prefer bolt action. I don't like it. I don't like having semi-automatic for such a young shooter because it makes them reckless, in my opinion. It makes them not. It doesn't make them accountable for each shot. Whereas when you load each shot and you put it in there purposely, in my mind, you are taking responsibility for that shot. So that to me is more important. Now, what I like about the QB78, trigger, man. You can adjust that thing. You can leave it heavy. You can leave it with a long creep. Really, you can do whatever. You can have a really light pull. I mean, just hair trigger almost. Very, very nice trigger, especially for the money. So, and this thing's made in China. So, and a lot of things are made in China. But nothing. I'm not knocking it. It's really good, you know. But for a relatively cheap gun, that's really good, in my opinion. What I don't like is the safety on this gun. The safety on this gun, just, it's like, I don't know, makes a lot of noise for one, and half the time it's really tough to put it on and off. I think you just get used to using it. The safety can be ambidextrous. You can put it to the other side, but then it kind of works in reverse, which I don't know. So let's shoot this one, and we'll shoot 3 shots with the pellets that it seems to like. Pretty loud. 596. 590. 5 up, or I'll have to shoot one more. Just for giggles. $585. Now you can tell the velocity is dropping a little bit because of the CO2 powerlets, but not much. And that's pretty repetitive, pretty quick, you know. You get used to shooting this gun, but what I like about it, it just feels, looks, and sounds more like an actual gun. So for a young shooter, little by little, get used to it. You can start modding it, and this can pretty much be their rifle for life, you know. I think it's a really, really sweet gun. And like I said, you can do all sorts of stuff. Like here, I put up a Catena rail at the bottom, so you can put a bipod and shoot better. It's just all sorts of stuff. So, you know, out of the two, I like this one a lot more. I was pretty disappointed with the 177 when it came to the trigger pull. That's my biggest pet peeve on it. It's just when my kid can't shoot it, then what good is it? So, like I said, it'll be in the yard until further notice. So now let's look at accuracy. This is at 10 yards, and here's the 1077 5-shot group. Pretty decent, actually pretty darn decent. But I'll tell you what, it took all my energy to squeeze that trigger really slow until it, you know, cracked, and that's how I got that group. This here, pretty effortless. From the QB78. So, and I know there's pellets that are even more accurate than this, but these are what I consider the hunting pellets that I like to use in it. So, And that's what I let my son use also, is these pointed silver bears. So pretty good pellet. Works in quite a few guns. The silver stings. Sorry, thought the silver bear. And silver stings very good. So 22 caliber, reaching right about 600 feet per second also, but with double the amount of energy, approximately. Because I mean, it's the pellet does. This is a 15.74 grain, and that's a 7.33 grain. So literally double the amount of energy. So something that they can really start looking as a hunting rifle, where you could start saying, well, I can take squirrels with that, and I can take rabbits with that, you know, within 20 yards or 30 yards, depending on what the energy is at that distance. But guys, I hope you really do your homework when it comes to your kid, because it's not just, I mean, we all want to get our kids air rifles and cool stuff, you know. But don't overdo it either. Don't go get them some Magnum Springer and here you go, and kid can't even lift it, can't even cock it, can't even shoot it because it's just so darn heavy. And then when you get a scratch on it, you'll be pretty, you know, upset because it costs you $500. You don't want to do that. So when you get your kid something, get him something nice, something decent, something he can probably shoot for the rest of his life. I personally, QB78 is definitely in the definitely in that ballpark, because it's a gun that is pretty cheap, can find lots of parts, carry on modding it, and you know, it won't kill me to see it scratched. Let's put it that way. Then I know my kid's at least toting the thing around. Anyway, guys, so I hope you guys got some valuable information off of this. Like I always say, grab an air rifle, take your kid out, put up a target, and let him shoot it full of holes.